Undertale, a unique and quirky RPG developed by Toby Fox. A Kickstarter for the game was launched back in 2013 with a goal of only $5,000, though it quickly became a great success, raising well past its goal at over $50,000. Only days before the game's release, I started seeing a lot of fan art popping up on Twitter from various artists I've been following. Not only that, but several Let's Players I also follow on Twitter expressed a lot of hype for this game. So I decided to check out the trailer and I immediately fell in love with it. And with the game launching only several days later, I couldn't wait to play it. God, I'm so bad with Kickstarters. It seems every time I find an indie game that I really like, it turns out that it had this big Kickstarter campaign that I just completely missed. As many of you know, it was exactly the same for this beautiful game right here. Not unlike Lisa, Undertale is definitely what I would call a comedy RPG, a genre created by the Mother series way back in the day. It seems all these comedy RPGs nowadays are always inspired by Earthbound, and you know, that's pretty understandable. Back then, that was really the only big, funny comedy RPG that everyone played and loved.
Well, you know, nobody played it back then because games all look dick.
In recent years, I've noticed a big resurgence of the genres, with titles such as Citizens of Earth and, you know, of course, Lisa. Now, at first, I assumed this game was made in RPG Maker, but apparently it was made in Game Maker. Like, YoYoGames.com's Game Maker. Okay, hang on, I need to confirm that. Oh man, don't even get me started on Game Maker. Boy, I tell you, did I ever dabble in that as a kid. I made a lot of games with this thing back when I was like 13. My basic understanding of game programming came entirely from using Game Maker. I mean, sure, you can learn a lot about level design and overall game design from playing games, but making games with Game Maker gave me a basic understanding of how games worked on a programming level. It's a series of changing variables and instances that test those variables, which will determine what events are triggered. You know, come to think of it, that's probably why from a very early age I had quite an easy time understanding just what was going on in speedruns of games that used a lot of glitches and manipulating values. Okay, I'm getting like way too off topic, so why don't we backtrack a little bit and figure out what makes this game unique. This is Undertale. Undertale released on Steam just a couple of days ago on September 15th for $11 Canadian. I have no idea how much it costs elsewhere. I'm guessing it's like $9 or $10 US? I don't know. I don't know why I always feel the need to figure out the prices and multiple exchange rates of the games I review. The game begins with some backstory explaining that long ago, humans and monsters lived in peace. Then some big ruckus went down and they went to war, and then the humans won, taking the world for themselves. The monsters were then exiled to forever live underground, sealed away by a magic barrier. Now, every so many years, it so happens that a human child ends up falling down into the realm of the monsters. And you happen to be one of these children. You play as Nitro. Well, you know, that's just what I named them. Their name could be Frinky Gusto if you're so inclined. It's not long before you meet Toriel, a friendly rabbit monster lady who guides you through a handful of dungeons, which acts as the tutorial. Now, obviously, a lot of people are going to compare this game to Earthbound, but I've also seen some people compare it to Cave Story. This game's nothing like Cave Story. People are only saying that because both games have rabbit people. So the game controls like a typical RPG. You walk around, talk to dudes, or monsters in the case of Undertale, collect items, solve puzzles, etc, etc, etc. One thing duly worth noting is that the game has DualShock 4 compatibility. Being made in Game Maker, this was not something I was expecting. It is, however, something I greatly appreciate. I freaking love the DualShock 4, and I much prefer to play PC games with it than any other controller. You can even map the controls, like you can make any button do any action you want, which isn't overly complicated since there's only like 3 buttons you need. What makes Undertale so unique is definitely the battle system. It's totally unlike anything I've ever seen before. So there's 2 ways you can defeat your enemies. Attacking them with the use of timed button presses to land stronger attacks, Super Mario RPG style, or by talking it out with them and sparing them. This brings an element of puzzle to each and every battle. You can figure out what troubles each enemy, and you can find the right dialogue choices in order to make amends with them. Sometimes it's as simple as consoling a monster that's upset, and sometimes it's hilarious, like flirting with a wobbly slime by wobbling your hips left and right. What really helps make the system fun and enjoyable are the vast and unique personalities that the enemies will have. It's also not too easy, as certain dialogue choices could upset them, causing them to attack harder and stronger. However, sparing enemies will not award you with experience points, but instead only gold. So if you want to level up and get stronger, making harder battles a little easier, you might not want to rely entirely on only sparing enemies. Though choosing a playthrough in which you kill a lot of enemies will also affect the game's plot. Now that's only the first half of the battle system, attacking. The second half is just as interesting. Defending. Kinda like the Mario and Luigi games, you'll actively control your character to dodge enemy attacks. In this case, you control your character's soul, represented by a heart. By moving this around, you can dodge enemy attacks bullet hell shooter style. Fans of games like Ikaruga and the Toho games are definitely going to be in for a treat. I really like this. It keeps the battles from getting boring. There's just enough engagement and skill-required input from the player to prevent battles from getting repetitive. Sometimes, in order to spare an enemy, you'll also have to perform actions during the defend phase as well. My favorite example is from the Sunder Planes. Sundere airplanes. That is a thing in this game. Through the dialogue options, you can choose to get close, but not too close. And then during the defend phase, you do just that, touching the green outline of the enemy without getting too close to take damage. This flusters the poor little Sunder plane, convincing it to no longer want to battle you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the battle system of Undertale. There is a ton of variety in these bullet hell segments. Aside from often spectacular and challenging bullet patterns, the game often shifts gears in how you'll control. Some enemies will change the color of your heart, which creates a totally different control scheme. For example, being purple instead of red will allow you to jump back and forth between ladders, or green that'll prevent you from moving in favor of using a direction shield. These changes make each boss battle extremely unique and exciting. The game's writing is also definitely one of the highlights. Undertale is likely the funniest game I've ever played. It's just full of jokes that hit the mark each and every time. A lot of it is visual gags, much like there is in Earthbound. A good example is that there's a fishing rod with someone's phone number on the hook.
There's plenty of fish in the sea!
The rest of it comes from the genuinely hilarious characters. Every character in this game is awesome, and that is a rarity. All of the characters have a distinct and lovable personality. You've got characters like Papyrus, an optimistic skeleton man who's hell-bent on becoming the greatest, but clearly does not know how and instead brags about the height of his sink and the amount of spaghetti in his fridge. Or Dr. Alphys, an otaku lizard who's a little bit too passionate about her animes. Wait a minute. An otaku lizard. Come to think of it, Papyrus also uses the line, "nyeh," a lot too. That can't be a coincidence. Another one of my favorite characters is this ghost guy right here.
After a great meal, I like to lay on the ground and feel like garbage. You know, it's family tradition. I'm gonna keep working on that mix CD.
The gags also come from the actions you perform. They're especially funny when it involves something that'd be so normal in any other game, like eating a pack of instant noodles mid-battle, or trying to sell a dirty pair of pants to a burger shop owner.
Why is this person trying to sell me something? This is a hamburger restaurant.
The characters are all very well written, but what helps give them such strong individualism is the way the game presents their dialogue. Sometimes it's the classic use of different noises being made when the text appears, made famous by Banjo-Kazooie. But there's also a lot of different fonts for each character and use of, or rather lack of, punctuation. It's as simple as not capitalizing letters that should be capitalized. You wouldn't expect it, but it really adds to the character. The game's presentation all around is awesome. The art style is really great, with beautiful character sprites, especially in the battles. Though, one thing I never liked too much is the ugly yellow used to color the main character. I'm guessing it's done on purpose to make it feel like you really don't belong in this great, colorful world of monsters, and yeah, it does the job well, but I grew pretty tired of staring at that ugly yellow for a good majority of the game. Like, what is this, man? The Simpsons? The music kicks ass. A lot of ass. It's a great mix of chiptune with real instruments, and you've probably gotten the picture already just from the music I've been putting in the video. And like any great RPG comedy, it's not without some great emotional moments too. It's not nearly as harsh as Lisa was, but there's a handful of nice heartwarming moments, especially in the ending, which I really liked. It's still mostly comedy focused though, unlike Lisa, which I'd say was about, let's say, this much comedy and this much emotional stuff. Undertale is more so like, this much emotional stuff and this much comedy. Undertale is probably the funniest game I've ever played, and the engaging and unique battle system takes that even further. Though it's not, like, super duper long. A straight, unfocused playthrough took me about 6 hours to complete, It might be longer if you do some side stuff, which I didn't really do a ton of, though it's got great replay value. I'm definitely gonna play through it again sometime soon. Just like Chrono Trigger, its short length and multiple endings, which mind you, Undertale does in fact have, make it easy, accessible, and fun to replay. Though, like I always say, if you personally think a game that length is worth the price of $11 or whatever it is in your currency, go check it out. But if you still need more convincing, you should play Undertale if you'd like to date a skeleton, buy donuts from spiders, hear a ghost's mixtape, microwave spaghetti, hug a volcano, battle a dog knight, talk to a rock family, read criticisms of anime,
Flirt with airplanes, harass employees, listen to knock-knock jokes, report the news, dodge houseflies, pet several dogs, eat dinner with skeletons. Subscribe to Nitro Rad.